Hello and welcome to another beautiful episode of the Lagos Youth Show on Lagos Television. Yes, this is that show where we bring you all of the energy as it concerns the young, amazing minds of Lagos State, ranging from Ikeja, Badagry, Ikorodu, Lagos, and Ekpe, bringing all of that energy to you on one show. My name is Tosin Ikuyiminu, and of course, I'm not alone.
Yes, I am here. My name is Oluwatosin Olajide, and you're welcome to Lagos Youth Show on another interesting edition. You know how we run it now.
Abi.
Yes, we give you back to back.
Back to
When we
back.
say hits back to back,
Back-to-back.
we give you conversations back to back,
Yeah.
entertainment back to back. We got you covered on Lagos Youth Show.
And as usual, this promises to be another engaging conversation as it relates to young people and our tradition. Our tradition.
This is a way you carry cap. No wonder.
I'm giving,
I really
I'm,
did connect.
I'm giving the traditional vibe.
I
right
really
now.
did not connect, anyways.
I know. More of the conversation coming to you straight on the show. Stay with us. We'll be right back after this quick break. Yes, it's still the Lagos Youth Show, and as usual, we promise you a lot of interesting, engaging conversation. On the core topic of discussion today, we are looking at youth and traditional institutions. I mean, we know, of course, here in Nigeria, particularly as it relates to young people having conversation when it comes to our democratic leaders and our traditional rulers as well. A lot of raging conversation has turned up. A lot of young people saying young people no longer rate our traditional rulers. Our democratically elected leaders don't also rate tradition. So a lot of conversation have been coming with that. But all of that we'll be discussing with clarity on today's show, as we have our guest, who is a doctoral researcher and no other person but Adebola Kuka. It's great to have you here.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much.
You're welcome to the
Yeah.
show. Good to have you.
Yeah.
All right, I'm looking at traditional rulers and the youth. How can you, or let me say, how do you measure the way it used to be before and now?
So apparently it's clear cut. If you're looking at traditional institutions from how it used to be and now, you must understand that there's a paradox in how things have evolved. There's the introduction of industrialization, there's the introduction of globalization, there's democracy, and there are so many things that didn't exist then that are present now. So even traditional institutions, if I may say, have lost that supremacy they used to have, because there's already the infiltration of politics, of governance, of acculturations, and so many needs into the traditional society.
Okay, interesting, and I like the fact that you mentioned the modernization and democracy as well.
Yeah.
But should we now say the traditional institutions have lost their role in this modern day and age?
No, we cannot totally say so. But notwithstanding, we still can say that there's a bridge in the gap. Because if you look at how traditional institutions existed, for example, you could talk about in pre-colonial times, it was more of a succession thing. At the demise of one king, before then you have the installation of another king. If one king does not die, it does not move to another ruling family. But surprisingly now, we've seen places or parts in Lagos whereby installations of king are democratic now. It's more of a voting process. And now my question is, who are those that are eligible to vote? Who gives those criteria?
Oh,
all of
sorry,
those
you
things.
mean there's some royal
Royal
titles
titles
now
that are
they install them
Yes,
through
this-
votes?
Yes, it might not
necessarily
possibly come through vote like a ballot box. It might not necessarily come through vote, but you could have cases whereby you will see infiltrations of politics
In it.
playing in it, which usually from time inception it should not have been so.
True. You have a point.
So you could just possibly know that, some of these things might just be, it is an hereditary system. It could be 5 families are entitled to this thing. It evolves after one family to the other. There are so many cases. After the death of the man from Ijebu, where we saw the demise, there have been so many controversies in installing another one, because there have been so many politics coming into play that this is the next family, this is the next family. Now, this is it. When there's no clear-cut constitution that guides the affairs of the traditional institution, there becomes a problem. Remember that a constitution could possibly be an agreed body of rules and regulations. It states how these things are done. It states the principle. We know all of these things. But now the question is, that thing, due to modernization, globalization, the constitutions have been infiltrated. Who amends the constitution? Who seeks utterances from the deities? Who listens to the gods? All of these things that existed.
Okay,
now.
but I
For
think
now.
that still exists somewhat in some parts of the country. Though.
Yeah, it
I think
does.
in Ibadan.
It still exists,
It's
but,
still
but I think
there.
definitely the point there I can get from what you're saying is there's some element of politics
Of course.
being involved.
Of course.
But I like the way the conversation is going.
Perfect.
But I want us to dive in a little bit on their roles, right?
Okay.
Recently, I've been hearing a lot of controversies around one Oba involving a particular community, then breaking, shutting down some houses, working with the government to shut. So a lot of controversies, people are talking. Now, it seems as if it's beginning to look like the role of our traditional leaders has everything and anything to do with real estate. And that label is becoming so obvious these days. So that's why I want to ask this question for clarity. What are the modern day roles of our traditional leaders in this age and time? What should those roles be in our
Perfect.
society?
Perfect. Brilliant question. Our traditional rulers, from even the word you said, traditional rulers, managing the traditional affairs of the state or wherever they reside over. So the idea is you have settlements of disputes. You have what? Development of wherever they reside and all of those things. But where I begin to have issues is when Obas begin to play active roles in politics and neglecting their primary assignment. Okay, for example, you are an Oba who presides over a particular nation. We expect you to come out when there are possibly cases of things that affect your people who you preside over. I do not expect you to be an Oba and then you should be discussing things that has to do with the political affairs and governance of the state. Remember, most of these Obas might attain the titles or position of more of like a non-state actors. We don't expect to see them at the frontiers of politics. We don't expect. Even if they are going to have their influences in politics, it should come on the basis or agreement for the development of their people. But when I see an Oba coming out to play an active role in politics, it begins to give me, could there be something else here that I'm not knowing about?
True, you have a point. And I like the fact that you clarified that.
Okay, so how can traditional institutions like Obas, the Obas, how do they help, in making our old traditions relevant in this present time?
Now, the first question we should ask ourselves is that most of these Obas that are installed, how many of them have even been installed possibly on the basis of genuity? And so I go by answering your question that you possibly cannot give what you don't have. So the idea is, I'm a student of the Department of History and International Studies. And one thing we are made to understand is that in looking at basis of all of these things, knowledge sometimes is passed down from one generation to another. So if I have my father who has ruled for 50, 60 years, I've been the prince for 50, 60 years, I possibly could have learned a lot of things from him. They might not have been documented. There might be things I witnessed and I've seen. But the idea is, I might not now become the next Oba after him. He could move to another family. He could move to another person who, by all evidence, might not have even gained the amount of enormous knowledge at which I have gotten. Instead of the person coming in line to work with me, the person decides to pick a beef with me. And there are lots of disputes among the family who is going to be the next ruling king. And that's why if you date back to the Lagos history, right from the inception, there were so many succession disputes about who owns the throne. And when I talked about globalization at the beginning, why I said that was, for Obaki Shemoyi, who happens to be one of the earliest Obas we had in Lagos, they said Obaki Shemoyi attained power and the seat of power became contested because of the enormous wealth that came from slave trade. So prior to then, what we had was just succession of Obas freely. But because of the amount of wealth, influence, power that comes to that seat now, it becomes highly contested, highly politicized, and all of that, all of those things.
Still on the conversation, I believe it's getting more heated.
Yes.
There's a lot to talk on this, but keeping the same energy, let's go on a quick break. We'll be right back to keep up the conversation. Stay with us.
As you show here on Lagos Television, and we still have our guest here with us, Adebola Koka, where we're discussing youth and traditional institutions.
Fantastic, fantastic. Let's even dive into it. You know, the conversation has been interesting so far. Let's talk about hierarchy a little bit. There was a particular video I saw. Our former president, Olusegun Obasanjo.
Yeah.
It was at a public conference where a governor walked in and was about to give a speech, and he demanded that all the traditional rulers of that state should stand up. And that I saw that content on. It caused a lot of controversy.
Last year.
Yes, it caused a lot of controversy on the internet at that time. So, my question to that scenario is, where's the place of hierarchy between our traditional institutions and our democratic, leaders today? Where's the place of hierarchy? And are they really getting the same, volume and power that it should get compared to that of our democratically elected leaders?
The honest truth is we are still on the conversation, and it's brilliant that most of all these questions are coming.
True.
Now, the truth about it is there's a clear-cut difference between a traditional institution and a president or whatever you have. So the honest truth is they have two different powers they atone to themselves perfectly. So the truth is, if I'm in a gathering whereby I have traditional rulers there and I'm also the head of state, I don't literally need to tell all of them to stand up. Because the truth is, whether we like it or not, we are all born out of that traditional institution.
Yeah.
So the perfect example is, if I am there and it was my father sitting there as a traditional ruler as a president, will I ask him to stand up? So the truth, why I'm going to take that conversation, because when there are controversial topics like this, you neither can tell who is right or wrong. Everybody's just going to pick parts. But from my own point of view, or from my perspective, I'll just literally have said it that I don't feel that's proper.
Okay.
Traditional institutions and traditional hierarchy have it from the apex. You have the Oba, assisted with his clans of chiefs. You have it down to all of his guards and however it is.
Yeah.
From the other side of politics, you have the president or whoever it is, and assisted by as governors and all of those things. But it does not mean that we cannot accord ourselves respect in a public space without having to create controversies. So that's just what I feel. And mind you, in some of these things, we really have to be careful. There are always a lot of behind the scenes.
Okay.
There are always a lot of behind the scenes. There could be unsettled disputes, there could be unsettled conversations, there could be, because most of all of these traditional rulers still have places, conferences, they still meet themselves. So it could just be something else has happened and it's just all of those things. So I would just say, particularly from my own point of view, that there should be a clear-cut way at which we can blend traditional institutions, traditional rulers, in line with democracy and governance.
Okay, so I think at some point I heard, I don't know, but I heard it was just a band though.
Wow.
I'm actually not sure about that. All right, let me ask this: how can traditional institutions, collaborate with modern organizations, to help the youth? Because one way or the other, they are there for the people too, in as much as probably it's a family thing or it's been infused one way or the other politically. They are still there for their people as well.
Yeah.
So how do you think they can collaborate with private organizations, modern organizations, to help the youth in their community?
I feel, and I know possibly, that one thing we need to do is that culture is a way of life.
Okay.
Our culture is very relevant. Our culture is important. In collaboration with organizations, quite a number of organizations will be eager to learn from us. So what I feel first is that's why I was happy on the 17th of September this year when the Lagos State, but I think Nigeria, it's total, when it returned history both to the primary school and the secondary school. That was a very, very important motive, because the honest truth about it is we need to know our roots. We need to know where we come from. Traditional rulers have a very important role. Modern organizations also have their role to play. The youth consist of almost 60 to 70% of Nigeria. So what it means that if we are looking at Lagos, that's why particularly days like the Isheshe Day, days like Eyo Festival, those are things that ignite me. Because you see tourists coming from all far of the world, they want to learn, they want to know. Ojude Oba started just so minor, but now Ojude Oba is one of the events that is sought out from all over the world.
Seriously?
I did a content because I'm a student of LASU. LASU did Oju de LASU. It was cultural. It was beautiful. Because I'm also a content creator. I covered all of these things, and I feel these are very, very important things we need to know. Traditional rulers need to be able to pass down the knowledge now. Now, we are in an era of globalization. Everything is easier to do now. What they need to do to the youth is to make this thing attractive to the youth. The motive of why I started my content was I do an academic content. I'm an history student. So I felt that if I sit you down to tell you a story of 2 hours, 3 hours, I'll bore you. So what I decided to do is that I'll know that story. I'll tell you in 2 minutes. I'll tell you the very important things. I'll summarize it for you. I'll tell you things that will attract you, that will bring you. Because I know that those are things that the youths want. So what I feel that traditional institutions need to do is that they should step up their game. Adding a bit of modernization, adding a bit of globalization into it. Yeah, some of these practices need to be sacred, but you need to involve the youth. And just like the way sugar attracts sugar ants, you need to find a way of attracting them to become interested in this thing.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Wrapping up the show, I know you've been able to touch some of the key things I wanted to ask, but I would like to put it this way. If you were in one room with all the traditional leaders here in Lagos State, and you have an opportunity to give an advice or suggest,
or to speak with them one-on-one,
what would be the few things you're going to share?
One, I'll let them know that the youths are the leaders of tomorrow. So involve them in those traditional practices. Involve the youths in the traditional practices. Make us part and parcel of our tradition. I hail from a particular state. I hail from a particular region. I've not been there in 2 years. I've not been there in 3 years. There's obviously something that is not attracting me there. My particular division or where I represent is not doing what I expect.
Thank you.
Yes. Take a lot of ideologies from the youth. If really we are the leaders of tomorrow, so what I feel is that no knowledge is wasted. Let's have your traditional knowledge as our forefathers, but have it with a blend of youthfulism in it.
All right, so the thing is, just, make the youth see reasons to actually do it.
Yes.
I think that's the major thing to do. It is really, really major. Thank you for coming to the program, Adebola Coker. It's good to have you.
It's a pleasure.
It's good to have someone that really knows more about this, Thank you very much.
Thank you so
All
much.
right, let's go on this quick break. We'll be right back.
And it has been an awesome conversation so far. I mean, Tosin, hey, we need to do a revolution, a major movement on this. What do you think?
Well, I think it's actually a good thing for every youth to know things that are needed to know, especially when it comes to our culture, especially when it comes to our tradition. It's important because when you know, you'll be able to talk about it. And it's important. And for the traditional rulers, traditional institutions generally, no matter the rank, the grade, what have you, I feel like they should be able, like Adebola said, they should be able, to find things that would interest the youth. To make them, because one way or the other, the youths are the leaders of tomorrow.
Sure.
Either they like it or not, because eventually everybody will grow old and die, and it is the youth that are coming up that will take over.
Absolutely.
So it is important, to talk about things. Let the youth know history. Yes,
beautiful. Another interesting thing is the controversy we mentioned. We need to have that understanding as young people, particularly when we engage on social media, that our traditional rulers are not better than our democratically elected leaders. Our democratically elected leaders are not better than our traditional rulers. They have two separate roles, and they are doing it well. It needs balancing. And it needs some sort of balance in our collaboration. I think with that, Tosin, it has been an awesome conversation so far. And I believe a lot of us have taken a lot of insightful thoughts from this. And we look forward to keeping more of these kinds of conversations. So don't let the conversation end. You can follow us across our various social media platforms at the Lagos Youth Show to keep up the conversation as we keep the energy. Not to forget, we are keeping the vibe and the energy. My name is Tosin Ikuyiminu.
And I am Oluwatosin.